That thumbnail isn't art, it's a lever, built to pull your attention before your mind even votes. Ever notice how one frame can make you feel curious, tempted, or uneasy in a split second, and your thumb moves almost automatically? That's not accidental. It's engineered with emotion, color, and personalization to find your weak spot. In the next moments, the exact triggers will be exposed, and a practical way to regain control without quitting entertainment. Before those thumbnails satisfy your eye and drag you into hours of mindless scrolling, grab 7 biblical secrets to destroy lust before it destroys you. Link in the description. Your freedom starts there. A stranger's face can stop you mid-scroll. Not because you know them, but because your brain physically cannot ignore a human face. There's a region deep in your mind called the fusiform gyrus, and its entire purpose is to detect faces, decode them, and decide if they're worth your attention. This happens in milliseconds. You don't choose to notice the face. Your brain chooses for you. Netflix knows this. Their designers understand that a landscape shot, a car chase, or a beautiful sunset will never compete with a pair of eyes staring back at you. So they zoom in. Tight. Close enough that you can see the tension in someone's jaw, the fear in their gaze, or the smirk that suggests something sinister. These aren't random frames pulled from the show. They're surgically selected moments of raw human emotion. Here's where it gets unsettling. Research confirms that anything your brain identifies as a face, even a fake one, triggers the same emotional response as seeing a real person. Your mind doesn't distinguish between a stranger on the street and a stranger on a thumbnail. It processes both identically. And once that face registers, your brain automatically extracts emotion from it. Happy, sad, angry, afraid. You cannot turn this off. It's hardwired. Now consider what Netflix discovered through years of testing. Complex emotions outperform neutral ones. A calm, expressionless face barely moves the needle. But show someone caught between shock and curiosity, heartbreak mixed with defiance? That triggers something deeper. Seeing a range of emotions compels people to watch because we're desperate to understand the story behind that expression. The face becomes a question your mind needs answered. This is why thumbnail after thumbnail features intense close-ups. A woman frozen in terror. A man with tears streaming down his cheeks. A villain's knowing smile. Each one is a carefully chosen frame designed to hijack the part of your brain responsible for social connection. Because faces aren't just images to us. They represent relationship, threat, opportunity, or danger. Your ancestors survived by reading faces quickly. That instinct still fires today, except now it's being used to sell you content. The manipulation runs even deeper. Netflix tags every frame of every show based on which character appears and what emotion they're displaying. Their algorithm knows whether a close-up works better than a wide shot for you specifically. One viewer might see a hero's determined stare. Another sees the villain's menacing grin, for the exact same show. The face chosen is the one most likely to make you feel something, because feeling precedes clicking. Think about that for a moment. Every time you scroll through Netflix, dozens of faces are competing for your emotional response. Each one has been tested, measured, and optimized to trigger the maximum psychological impact. The warm tones make you feel energy and emotion. The dramatic lighting creates tension. And always, eyes that seem to look directly at you. This is not entertainment passively waiting for your interest. This is a system actively hunting for your attention through the most primal trigger humans possess. The face of another person. Your mind was designed to connect with faces. Now that design is being exploited, frame by frame, scroll by scroll. Look around your room right now. Notice how certain things pull your eyes without you even trying? That same invisible force is being weaponized every time you open a streaming app. The human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text. Before a single word registers, color has already done its work. It's already spoken to something deep inside you, something you didn't give permission to be touched. And the engineers behind these platforms know this better than most psychologists. Red isn't just a color on Netflix. It's a command. Studies consistently show that red increases heart rate, triggers excitement, and creates a sense of urgency that bypasses rational thought. That's why sale signs scream in red. That's why, by now, buttons glow crimson. Red says act now, and your nervous system obeys before your mind catches up. When a thumbnail uses a red jacket against a muted gray background, it's not aesthetic preference. It's calculated precision. Your eye lands there first. Every single time. But it goes deeper. Netflix doesn't just use red. It uses black as the stage. That dark background isn't minimalist design for the sake of beauty. It replicates the low-light environment of a cinema, triggering what psychologists call environmental memory. Your brain associates darkness with immersive viewing. Suddenly, you're not browsing on a couch. You're being pulled into a theater experience. The thumbnails pop against that void like actors under spotlight, demanding your attention. Then there's contrast. High-contrast visuals, neon lighting, stark color differences, bright faces against shadowy scenes, are engineered to stand out even on a tiny mobile screen. The sharper the contrast, the faster your brain locks on. Warm tones like orange and yellow spike energy and optimism, while cool blues suggest calm or mystery. Each palette is chosen not to look good, but to make you feel something specific. A thriller thumbnail feels unsettling in a single glance. A comedy feels light and familiar. All of this happens in under a second, before you've made any conscious decision. Here's what most people miss. This isn't about selling entertainment. It's about selling impulse. The entire system is designed to make you feel before you think. Your emotions get hijacked, and your thumb moves. Click. Another hour gone. Another evening surrendered to something you didn't deliberately choose. Scripture warns about this exact vulnerability. The eye is the lamp of the body. What you let in shapes everything that follows. These platforms understand that truth better than most believers do. They've studied how light, color, and contrast manipulate the human soul, and they've built empires on that knowledge. The question isn't whether you'll be influenced. You already are. The question is whether you'll stay blind to it, or finally see the strings attached to every frame designed to pull you in. Think about this. You and your friend open Netflix at the same time, search for the exact same show, and see completely different images staring back at you. That's not a glitch. That's a system designed to study you, learn you, and present precisely what will make your thumb move. Netflix estimates they have roughly 90 seconds to capture your attention before you drift elsewhere. 90 seconds. So they built something called Aesthetic Visual Analysis, AVA for short, a collection of algorithms that does something almost unsettling. It scans every single frame of every show and movie in their library. A single season of a 10-episode series contains nearly 9 million still frames. AVA sifts through all of them, analyzing composition, lighting, facial expressions, camera angles, even the posture of actors in each shot. But here's where it shifts from impressive to invasive. AVA doesn't just pick the best image. It creates a pool of candidates, sometimes 9 or more options per title, and then a second system takes over. This one watches you. It tracks which genres pull you in, how long you hover before clicking, what time of day you watch, which device you're using, and even which actors have kept you glued to the screen before. Then it compares your behavior to millions of others with similar patterns, groups you together, and predicts which thumbnail will trigger your specific response. So if you recently watched something featuring a particular actress, suddenly the thumbnail for an unrelated film shifts to highlight her face, even if she's a minor character. The movie didn't change. The story didn't change. But what you see changed, because the algorithm learned your weakness. And it doesn't stop learning. Netflix uses something called contextual bandits, a machine learning model that updates in real time based on your latest interactions. That's why thumbnails on your account shift from day to day, sometimes hour to hour. The system is constantly experimenting, balancing between testing new images and serving the ones already proven to make you click. Now pause and consider what's actually happening here. A machine is being trained to find the visual that bypasses your rational mind, the image that appeals to curiosity, attraction, nostalgia, or even subtle temptation, before you consciously decide anything. Personalized artwork alone has been shown to increase click-through rates by 20 to 30%. That's not a small nudge. That's a significant shift in human behavior, engineered frame by frame. The troubling part isn't that technology can do this. It's that most people have no idea it's being done to them. You think you're choosing freely, but the choice was already shaped, curated, based on data you never knowingly handed over. The battlefield isn't just the content anymore. It's the doorway into the content. And that doorway has been custom-built to match your vulnerabilities. Scripture warns that the eye is the lamp of the body. What you let in shapes everything that follows. When the entrance itself is engineered to exploit you, guarding that gate becomes an act of spiritual warfare, not just media literacy. If these triggers are already working against you, imagine what happens when you fight back with truth. Grab 7 biblical secrets to destroy lust before it destroys you. Link in the description and pinned comment. Arm yourself now. You're not browsing Netflix. You're being studied. Every single scroll, pause, and click feeds a machine that's been watching millions of people just like you, learning exactly what makes them stop and stare. Here's how deep this goes. Netflix doesn't just pick a thumbnail and hope it works. They run experiments on a massive scale, dividing their audience into groups and showing each group a different image for the exact same show. Group A sees one version. Group B sees another. Then they sit back and measure which image made more people click. The winning image survives. The loser gets erased. It's survival of the most manipulative. And the numbers don't lie. In one test, simply swapping out the thumbnail for a single movie caused a 20% jump in clicks. Think about that. Same content, same story, same actors, but a different picture changed everything. That's not marketing. That's mind control dressed in pixels. But they didn't stop there. Netflix discovered that 82% of the time you spend browsing is focused entirely on thumbnail artwork. You're not reading descriptions. You're not scanning titles. Your eyes are locked on that image for about 1.8 seconds before you decide to move on or dive in. So they've poured enormous resources into owning that tiny window of your attention. Now here's where it gets personal. Netflix doesn't just test which image works best for everyone. They test which image works best for you. If their system knows you've watched several films featuring a particular actor, guess whose face suddenly appears on thumbnails you've never clicked before? That's not coincidence. That's a calculated move designed to exploit your past behavior. The system runs on something called aesthetic visual analysis. For a single hour of content, Netflix extracts up to 86,000 individual frames. Each frame gets tagged with metadata, brightness, contrast, facial expressions, skin tones, even the probability of nudity. Then machine learning ranks those frames based on what's most likely to trigger a response from someone with your exact viewing history. And the goal isn't just to get you to click once. They measure whether the optimized artwork actually increases your total viewing time, or whether it simply shifts your attention from one title to another. They want to know if that thumbnail genuinely hooked you deeper into the platform, or just moved you sideways. This is where discernment becomes essential. Every image presented to you has already defeated dozens of alternatives in psychological combat. It earned its place on your screen by proving it could manipulate more people than any other option. The test never ends. Netflix keeps refining, keeps iterating, keeps learning what breaks through your defenses. So the next time you feel that familiar pull, that unexplainable urge to click on something you weren't even looking for, understand what's happening. You're not weak. You're facing a system built by engineers who've studied human behavior across hundreds of millions of users. Recognizing the game is the first step toward not being played by it. The moment your eyes land on a Netflix thumbnail, the battle is already over, and you didn't even know it started. That image wasn't chosen to inform you. It was chosen to bypass the thinking part of your brain entirely and speak directly to something deeper, something instinctive, something that reacts before reason gets a vote. This is the core of modern attention engineering. The goal isn't to make you consider whether a show is worth your time. The goal is to make you feel something so quickly that clicking becomes automatic. Curiosity, excitement, a hint of fear, a flash of attraction. These emotions fire in milliseconds, and by the time your rational mind wakes up, your thumb has already moved. Think about how you scroll. You're not analyzing each option like a careful shopper reading labels. You're scanning, feeling, reacting. Netflix knows this. Their entire system is built around one truth. Humans are emotional creatures who justify decisions after making them, not before. So instead of convincing your logic, they seduce your feelings. The colors aren't random. Red creates urgency. High contrast grabs your eye faster than your neighbor's name being called in a crowd. Faces showing extreme emotion, wide eyes, open mouths, tension, trigger a mirror response inside you. You feel what they feel before you even know who they are. And that tiny spark of emotion? That's the hook. That's the moment Netflix wins. But here's what makes this truly dangerous. The choice feels like yours. Nobody forced you. Nobody argued with you. You just clicked. It felt natural, effortless, even enjoyable. This is manipulation at its most elegant, when the puppet doesn't feel the strings. Now pull this into real life. How many decisions do you make from emotion and then dress up with logic afterward? That purchase you needed. That scroll that turned into 2 hours. That glance that became a habit. The pattern is everywhere once you see it. Feel first, justify later. And entire industries are designed to exploit this loop. Scripture speaks directly to this vulnerability. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Not guard your schedule. Not guard your arguments. Guard your heart, because that's where decisions actually begin. The battlefield isn't in your calendar or your willpower. It's in that fraction of a second when emotion rises and asks you to act before you've thought. So what's the counter-strategy? Awareness is the first weapon. When you recognize that an image, a notification, or a piece of content is designed to trigger emotion before thought, you create a gap. A pause. That pause is where your freedom lives. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of being pulled, you choose. The algorithm can learn your patterns, but it cannot override a guarded heart. Every time you pause before clicking, you reclaim territory. Every time you question why something made you feel urgency, you weaken the manipulation's grip. This isn't about rejecting technology. It's about refusing to let your emotions be someone else's remote control. The ancient world understood something modern technology exploits. Your eyes and ears are gates, and whatever passes through them shapes your soul. Every thumbnail engineered to trigger desire, every algorithm designed to hook your emotions, enters through those gates. Once inside, it doesn't just disappear. It lingers, it plants seeds, it quietly reshapes what you crave. Scripture puts this bluntly: above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Notice the urgency, above all else. Not occasionally. Not when convenient. This is the primary task. Your heart is the wellspring of life, and if polluted at the source, everything downstream gets contaminated. Decisions, relationships, peace of mind, all of it traces back to what you've allowed through your gates. Now consider how the eye functions. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. This isn't poetry, it's architecture. What you repeatedly look at determines whether you walk in clarity or confusion. Netflix knows this. Advertisers know this. The question is whether you know this deeply enough to act on it. Here's where wisdom separates the naive from the discerning. Be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. That's a fascinating combination. Shrewdness without cynicism, purity without ignorance. Understanding how thumbnails manipulate emotion doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you prepared. You can appreciate storytelling, enjoy entertainment, and still recognize when something is designed to bypass your judgment and target your impulses directly. Awareness isn't the enemy of enjoyment, it's the guardian of it. But knowledge alone won't save you. The fruit of the Spirit includes self-control, and notice, it's called fruit, not a factory product. It grows. It develops over time through practice, through failure, through getting back up. Every time you pause before clicking, every time you ask yourself, why do I want this right now? You're exercising a muscle that most people let atrophy. Self-control isn't about white-knuckling your way through temptation. It's about building a character that simply isn't moved by cheap tricks anymore. Finally, there's a transformation available that goes beyond behavior modification. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The pattern of this world says consume more, feel more, click faster, think less. Renewal moves in the opposite direction. Slower, deeper, more intentional. When your mind is genuinely renewed, those thumbnails lose their magnetic pull. Not because you've become inhuman, but because you've become fully human, operating from desire that's been redirected toward things that actually satisfy. Guarding your gates isn't about building walls against all beauty or pleasure. It's about becoming selective, becoming sovereign over your own attention. In an age where billion-dollar algorithms compete for your gaze, reclaiming your eyes is an act of rebellion. And it starts with one decision. What will you allow through the gate today? Every scroll, every click, every thumbnail you've ever been drawn to, none of it was random. Systems worth billions are designed to study your weaknesses, predict your impulses, and serve you exactly what keeps you coming back. Now you've seen behind the curtain. The question isn't whether you'll be targeted again. You will, within seconds of closing this video. The question is whether you'll stay defenseless or finally take ground. Knowledge exposed the trap. But knowledge without action leaves you standing at the edge, still vulnerable. What you need now is a weapon, a practical, biblical framework to dismantle lust at its root before it quietly dismantles you. That's exactly why 7 biblical secrets to destroy lust before it destroys you exists. No fluff, no shame, just ancient wisdom meeting modern warfare. The link is waiting in the description and the pinned comment. Your next chapter starts with one click. Make it count.